What's up, everybody? 7177 here with a Skyrim Special Edition Requiem 5.0.2 mod video. I'm going over the mods that I use in my playthrough. It's more of a vanilla-esque kind of Requiem playthrough. I also cover things that cannot go into it, things you want to look out for, some tips and tricks, and some general gameplay stuff. Alright, let's get to it. So starting off first, I would like to say that I am playing on a downgraded version of Skyrim. I am not playing on the Anniversary Edition, so I am using the unofficial Skyrim Special Edition downgrade patcher made by Halgari. It's excellent. It's super easy to use. And I am using the full patcher. So I got rid of all the creation content and everything and went back down to 1.5.97. Before we get into the mod list, there's one thing that's really important that I need to mention, is that the unofficial Skyrim Special Edition patch, USEEP by Arthmore, is not for 1.5.97. It is now only for Anniversary Edition. And if you want to use that, you'll have to rather do a Google search or a Reddit search and find the 1.5.97 download. It is no longer listed on the Nexus. Okay, so in the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I am using the downgraded version 1.5.97 of Skyrim, and one of the main reasons why, of course, is this page here. This is the official Requiem Special Edition wiki, and you go to official DLCs, that's covered, and Downgrade DLC is fully integrated. Hearthfire's DLC is fully integrated. However, Dragonborn DLC is not yet integrated. It remains in its original state. So whenever you choose to do this, just remember that it's not going to be requiemed pretty much, and it can either be easier or harder and stuff like that. Now the big thing is fishing is not integrated. Rail Curios, Saints and Seducers, Survival Mode, or any of the Creation Club stuff. These you get with the Anniversary Edition and you get with the update forcefully. So that right there is one of the main reasons why to downgrade. Now, when you're looking at patches or you're looking at content on the Nexus, you have to be really careful because, like, we'll look here. Requiem, Dragonborn patch. Wow, that's really cool. Dragonborn is not yet integrated. I can still play Dragonborn here. Well, let's go ahead and look at the posts for this page. This is here by BPM64. That just to know that if you're using this, it does not work with Requiem 5.0 They are working on fixing it. So that means if you try to load it in on our current up-to-date version of Requiem, it will not work. It only worked on the unofficial ports of Requiem. So just remember that whenever you're downloading things, just because it says Requiem Dragonborn patch or Requiem Legacy of whatever patch or something it's probably for the unofficial port of Requiem, because Requiem's only been out for roughly 2 weeks. Once again, this is for version Requiem 5.0.2 and on January 15, 2022. I say that because if you're viewing this in the future, patches might have changed, things might have updated. So always read the mod descriptions, read the posts on the mods as well, and read any loot order issues. So jumping right into it, I tried to keep a somewhat vanilla approach to this Requiem install. There are some quality of life things that I like to add, but nothing that changes actors, AI, weapons, or quests. In Requiem, anytime you add things that change the way AI works, it changes actors, it adds weapons, or removes things, or changes values, it doesn't play well with Requiem. Since Requiem is a full overhaul, it changes AI, it changes loot, it changes everything, that it may or may not play well. If a mod adds weapons and the weapons are lacking the incorrect tags, like glass or this or something in there, Requiem, when it patches, might not patch that weapon correctly, so it might not have the values that it should. So keep that in mind. Jumping into the mods here, I do have quite a few mods. Most of them are texture mods. I will say in the beginning, I'm using almost the full rustic set of mods here. They're all made by Gamwitch here, which you can go to his page. I'm using almost every single one. All right, so jumping into it. I'm using the SSE engine fixes. There is a part 1 and part 2. Part 2 has to be mandatory manual installed. Just follow the description. It's super easy to do. Bug fixes for SSE. Once again, more script extender fixes. The unofficial Skyrim Edition patch, which I've already covered. Just do a simple Google search or Reddit search, and you can find the downgraded version. Once again, the AE version will not work. Please keep that in mind. And this is pretty much solely required, I believe, just for alternate start live another life. This mod here. So if you use another alternate start mod or something, it might not be required for this. So you, depending on how you feel with the issues with that, you may or may not need that patch at all. All right, JK Skyrim. JK Skyrim All-in-One, which I use the All-in-One. It's a 2K installer for cities, towns, villages, hamlets. It just changes, makes the game pretty. I'll be using multiple texture overhauls. Some overwrite the other ones, and it just makes sure everything is covered. And I am using Realistic Water 2, so make sure you have the patch. And I'll show you a good way to check to make sure you have patches as well at the end of the video, or towards the end of the video. Bandolier, I'm using Bandolier's Bags and Pouches Classic. So this is something that adds to the base game. It adds bandolier bags, so pouches and backpacks to the game. Requiem has a very low carry weight system. I'm playing a heavy armor character with a big two-handed weapon, and I have like no carry weight. So this can be immersion breaking. You can choose to use how many bags or bandoliers that you would like. You can go the full gambit. You can give them to your followers as well. It's up to you. Once again, it does change the game and adds to Requiem. Not required, but I like it. Cloaks of Skyrim is just for looks, basically. I like to collect the cloaks and match my armor and stuff like that. Rustic Clothing by Gamwitch, once again, just redoes all the clothing. It's really nice. Violins, a kill mod mood. Requiem has its own way in the MCU menu to disable melee kill mods. I haven't played around with it a whole bunch, because especially if you're playing like a hardcore version of Requiem, or you die, if you die, your game gets deleted. There's always a chance that you can have a kill move just spawn against you and it just one-shots you, especially if you suddenly run in and you're level 10 and it's a level 45 bandit for some reason because it's a boss, and you just die instantly and you don't get a chance to block or run or do anything. So I use violins and I turn all kill moves off. Just because I don't like them. I think it's immersion breaking when I'm in combat, and I hate it when I'm like, I could have dodged that or I could have blocked that, and it just instantly kills me. So violins, I turn them all off in MCM menu in the game. Rustic Daedra is just a Daedra retexture by Gamwitch. It's awesome. No Floating Fog removes all the fog in dungeons and stuff like that, especially like Dark Brotherhood, stuff like that. It's too much, so I get rid of that. Realistic Water 2 is my favorite water mod. Most people use it. Just remember that if you are using a water mod, whether for Requiem or whatever you're going to use it for, that you have the relevant patches, combat mods, wildcat, stuff like that. Some of those can interfere with water mods, so make sure you always check for patches. Alternate Start Live Another Knife by Altmore. It's probably one of the most common alternate start mods out there. If you are using a different one or you're not using it at all, you might not need this unofficial Skyrim patch. Gist Soul Trap is something that adds to the game. It adds scripts. It just helps with soul trap management and soul stones. If you're not really worried about soul stones, or it doesn't bother you that you can put like a petty soul and a grand soul or something like that, you don't have to worry about this mod at all. But if you are going to use this mod and you're going to use another one of Rustic's mods for soul traps, we'll cover that. You'll make sure that you got to have both versions. I am a book collector, both in real life and in Skyrim. So I like to read all the books. I always have, even going all the way back to Morrowind. So this just gives you a little bit of experience when you read books. This can be game breaking because it's basically free experience. It can help you in the beginning of the game because it gives you a little bit of experience to get to those levels. And in Requiem, levels are life. You know, levels are like really what matters. It says your game's really based around your perks, but for me, I feel it's more based around your levels. Obviously, you can't really use a bow unless you have perks and bows, but stuff like that. But levels are what keeps you from just getting destroyed. So this is your choice. It can be game breaking for you, especially if you don't use the less XP version of the file. But I like it. I like to collect books, and it gives me a reason to search out the books that I haven't found yet, and I get a little happy when I'm like, ooh, I haven't found that book yet. Relationship dialogue overhaul just changes some of the dialogue options and fixes some of the dialogue options for immersion's sake. I like to use it. So Skyrim, Requiem itself disables fast travel. So I like to still be able to fast travel around the map to an extent. It's kind of like if you're in Whiterun, or you're around that way, like now I have to go all the way to Reach, and oh my god, that's so far away. You can pay for a carriage to take you there, which is of course in the base game, but I like to have these. I will say that if you are going to do it, it has a quest involved with it. If you are going to try to do this at a low level in Requiem, you will not be able to do it. You will encounter trolls and bears and all this other stuff that you will not be able to kill until much later on. There is an MCM option in there to auto-complete the main quest. The main quest is pretty cool, but if you do want to use it right off the gate, when you get into the game, you need to turn that on. I do recommend that you complete it at least once, probably in a different playthrough, not in Requiem. I am using Wearable Lanterns by Chesco. There is a issue with this release that basically has kind of a bug to it, to where either it'll reset the value or you'll have a pop-up issue. So there is a Wearable Lanterns, it's called Wearable Lanterns SE and VR fix. That's exactly what it's listed as. And it deletes that message. Wearable Lanterns can still have an issue to where you put them on and either they don't show or no light shows. And unfortunately, the only way around that I've found currently is to go into the MCM menu of Wearable Lanterns, and at the top where it says light value, you change that light value to whatever you want it set to, and then it'll fix the lantern. I have the lantern hotkeyed, so just like a torch, and I take it out and put it on, take it off, stuff like that. Sometimes when you die and you reload a bunch, it can have to reset it again. It's kind of a bummer, but right now there's no other options. Pick up books simple just allows me to pick up books without having to read them first. If I just want to read the book, say it's going to be stealing, you go into third person and you click on the book, and that's changeable during in the MCM menu of it. But that's just for me. Like I said, I like to collect books. All right, Adjust library for SKSE plugins all in one. There are some mods that require this. I pretty much just always have this on, that plus all the bug fixes. Ennoble Skyrim, full pack 2K. I am using the 2K version of this, and it goes along with JK Skyrim and Static Mesh Improvement mod. Those are like my three basic, like the base level of texture changes, and then I add on and overwrite those. And also to go along Bellyaches, Animals, and Creature packs. A lot of these will be rewritten by other more high quality versions, but it just makes sure everything gets covered. Arctic Frost, there's three of these for Frost, Fire, and Lightning. It just makes the textures look a lot better and add some cool little effects to them. It's just texture overhauls, and these are overwritten by some other things. Astral Aspect, it just upgrades the standing stones to be nice, beautiful looking standing stones. Bellyaches Animal and Creature Pack, which is just covers bugs, bears, wolves. A lot of those are rewritten, overwritten, but this just makes sure everything's covered. Blended Roads is the same thing. It adds, I use for like less blended, more believable, but it is overwritten a lot by JKs and Noble in some places. Dragon Priest is Dragon Priest retexture. Embers. So Embers is of course, Embers and also Flames. So Embers and Inferno Fire Effects Redux. If you are going to use these two, you need to make sure when you install them that you do it correctly. I install Embers first and then Inferno, and then do the subsequent installation that says I'm using it, because if not, it can break each other. Ethereal Clouds just makes the clouds look pretty. Glorious Doors. This is a large texture pack, but it just redoes all the doors, especially like Hold, like Whiterun doors, different like Dwarven doors and stuff like that. They look really great, and you don't ever really notice how good they look until you get something like this. And of course the update, which just updates one door. High quality Alduin's Wall. Inferno, which we talked about, is a fire effect. 2K Stones of Baranzaya. Less Ugly Tundra Grass. This overwrites the floor overhaul that I have, but I just like that Tundra Grass better. A Noble Skyrim. Static Mesh Improvement patch. Peltapalooza is by Rustic. It just adds pelts it changes the diversity of the pelts in the game. You never really notice there's pelts everywhere, on the wall, on the floors, and this just makes them more diverse and changes them up. Rallies Ravenrock basically overhauls Ravenrock and Solstheim. There is an issue with some of the official DLC and Requiem, which I'll cover here towards the end of the video. Rustic Armor and Weapons SE, which just updates the textures for... it's just a texture overhaul, so it doesn't add or change any weapons. Ragnarok, which is also by the Rustic Gamwitch, who's awesome. Like I said, I pretty much use his entire set for the most part, except for the mountains, because other mods overwrite the mountains. But it does the rugs, amulets, Azure Star, clutter. A lot of this overwrites Static Mesh Improvement mod and some other clutter mods. Rustic Cooking, Death Hound and Gargoyle. The Dragon Corpse are different. There are different dragon retextures. This is a Dragon Corpse retexture. And then, of course, here's the Dragon retexture. If you are going to install a Dragon texture mod, make sure that it's just a texture mod. A lot of them are also, they add dragons to the game. They add like new dragons, young dragons, legendary dragons, stuff like that. Make sure it's just a texture mod, because that can interfere with Requiem. Elder Scroll, Frostbite Spiders, Furniture, Reliefs, Soul Gem. So the Soul Gem mod we talked about earlier. This here, basically it has to be written correctly to be able to interfect, to go along with the mod up here called Gist Soul Trap. So when you install... If you install the Rustic Soul Gems, I recommend using the FOMod Gist installation and not the patch in Gist. So I'd use the actual mods patch here, which it has one. There's 3 versions in there, and use that one. Rustic Spriggans, Rustic Windows, a Skeleton, which adds diverse skeletons with different blood and bone textures, stuff like that. A Skygazer Moon Overhaul, Skyrim 3D Ice Flows, Skyrim Floor Overhaul. There are a lot of grass and tree overhauls, stuff like that. I use this as a base, and then I overwrite it as needed. Static Mesh Improvement mod, which is pretty much mandatory for most things. I can't even imagine just not having it. Smooth Sky Mesh, it basically makes the transition between the sky and the ground look good. It's no longer just a line. It actually adds like a transition to it. Styrofoam Source just overwrites the type of styrofoam. It's basically just a styrofoam overhaul. Pretty Trolls. Voltage is more lightning effects. It's just a texture. It's really pretty. Werewolf 4Ks, Whisper 4Ks. A lot of these are already overwriting other mods. So these are just individual high quality textures of those. All right, Diversity, a character overhaul. Diversity is a texture overhaul for characters in the game. WICO, WICO, Windsong, Immersive Character Overhaul, I think is what it's called, is really good. However, it changes actors, which can have issues with Requiem. And Requiem being so new to Special Edition now, didn't want to use it. So this basically makes the characters look pretty. Some of them look, especially some of the male characters, look like they're wearing makeup. But it's better than vanilla blockiness. No NPC greetings. I have the less version installed when you go through the manager. It just makes it so they don't talk to you from a million miles away. And of course, Requiem, the role-playing overhaul 5.0.2. The update fixed some carry weight or some speed issues when wearing heavy armor, and also there's an issue with the they fixed the issue hopefully with the Requiem for the Indifferent not being recognized. Whenever you're installing mods, and it's for Requiem, you want to install everything else and then Requiem last for the installation is what it says on the page. So, and that's what I did. I haven't had any issues. I am using Legacy of the Dragonborn. That's probably like the only extra quest thing that I've added to the game is Legacy of the Dragonborn. When you do use Legacy of the Dragonborn, make sure you also go and you download Legacy of the Dragonborn patches, which will go through and read your mod list. So basically what I do is I download everything first, or I install everything first, and then I install Legacy of the Dragonborn, and then Legacy of the Dragonborn patches, or Legacy of the Dragonborn Requiem, and then Legacy of the Dragonborn patches. Make sure when you go through that you're reading everything on there. It says this because I have multiple profiles. So I have my regular profile, and I also have my Marloot profile. For housing mods, most housing mods are or player homes are okay out the gate, unless they add characters, items, quests, stuff like that. Breeze Home is a good one. I'm using the Elysium Estate. It adds a house outside of Whiterun. It's free. You just have to do a little quest right next to it. You talk to something again. This can be considered immersion breaking if you're going for a real hardcore experience. But I like to have a place to sleep and do everything and store things without having to wait till Breeze Home, because Breeze Home you have to defeat a dragon. Spoiler alert. And then the dragons are dragons in Requiem. They are difficult. So you can be level 20 or so, 15, 20, depending on your character type, before you do that. Plus, I like Elysium because I don't have to actually go into Whiterun and then go into Breeze Home. I can just go straight there. And it's right across kind of the way from the Way Shrine if you are using the Way Shrines. EMB Helper. Just it's kind of a must if you're using EMBs. I'll get into the EMB here soon. Legacy of the Dragonborn, already spoke about. Quality world map, classic with all roads. Requiem really focuses on travel and exploration, not just fast traveling back and forth and everything. You really get to go around a lot. So having a nice map is really good. Plus, having all the roads on there is nice, because going over mountains and stuff is not always easiest, especially considering that strains more stamina. I am using an ultra widescreen monitor, so I have to have a widescreen fix. I'm using the complete widescreen fix for UI. Okay, so I have more HUD and floating damage. So what this does, more HUD shows the target's level, their life, the stamina, and magic, which that's all editable via the MCM menu. You can also just get something called Show Enemy Level. There's another mod that's something along the lines of that. It is immersion breaking that you can kind of see. You can see their lives. You can see everything, like the number value. Combine that with floating combat damage, or floating damage version 2. You can see, I hit him for 50, or I hit him for 130, or something like that. It kind of gives you a gauge of how strong your character is. Plus, you can be like fighting bandits, and then suddenly you just get instantly one-shot, and you're like, why am I getting one-shot? Well, that bandit's actually level 33. The one you're fighting before is level 7. So, it is immersion breaking, but if you're new to Requiem, maybe I'd recommend it. It can help you from getting frustrated in a lot of ways. I've played a ton of Requiem. Marloot, basically Wildlander, a lot of all of the hard ones. But this, I like it. It's not really immersion breaking to me because, like I said, I've played through it so many times. So use your best decision for that. And make sure you are using the pre-Anniversary Edition versions of all of these. Race menu, just race menu without body slide, just normal race menu. Sky UI, and then a Sky UI SE flashing save games fix. This is the patch for Wearable Lanterns. It says VR patch, but it's actually the Wearable Lanterns SE and VR patch. Which you'll look at here. Chesco Wearable Lanterns SE and VR patch. This just updates one of the files in there, the source files, which you can't actually see because Wearable Lanterns is packaged in a BSA, yada, yada, yada. If you know what you're doing, you can unpackage the BSA, edit the file to no longer say Skyrim UI. Now it's like Skyrim SE _ UI. If you know what you're doing, you can do that. But if not, you can just use something like this. It doesn't fix the profile issue, like I talked about earlier, but it does get rid of that message. Enhanced lighting for EMB. Now, this is just this is just for EMB. It makes the lighting better. It is not ELEFX, which is a whole lighting overhaul. I let my EMB plus other settings do this and not do another lighting overhaul on it. Just with this one right here. And caves are, if I don't use a lantern, I can't see 2 feet in front of my face. So without having to use something like LEFX, it's a great mod, but it changes a lot of things and interferes with a lot of things it can. So it's up to you if you want to go through that installation route. Just make sure that you run the whole gambit of all things that are required. Ethereal Cosmos just makes the sky real pretty at night. Glowing ore veins can be considered game breaking. Obviously, ore veins don't glow. But for me, I like to do smithing and stuff. Kind of 50-50 on it because in Requiem, you can break down gear. So actually, you know what? I'll just go ahead and we're going to go ahead and just disable that. Because in Requiem, you can break down gear. So now that, and then of course, Vivid Weathers. Vivid Weathers is my weather overhaul, whether you're going to use Obsidian Weathers, Vivid Weathers, there's a lot of really good ones on there. Just make sure that whatever weather mod you use coincides with whatever EMB you're going to use. So I am using the Skyrim SE re-engaged EMB here, which has all the different weathers and everything, Vivid Weathers, Nat, Cot, Climates of Tamariel. So you can see here the 3 top files. EMB Light is really cool. There are some things that go along with it, but it makes torches and stuff at night look fantastic. I'm not using it currently, but I have used it previously. So you've installed all your mods, you've done everything, and you're ready to get into the game. It's best to go into your plugins here, and mine's not going to show it because I already have everything fixed, but when you go in here, you'll see all this stuff in here. Once again, this, of course, is for Vortex. You go to Flags, and you go to Loot Messages. These little 3 dots here, if it's yellow or orange, if it's orange, like this color, it means there's an issue. A pretty big issue, which might not always show up somewhere else. Not like a missing master issue, but like maybe you're missing a patch. A lot of people don't know this feature exists. So if we go into Race Menu plugin, you just double click on it here. We are under the plugins here, and you scroll down. It'll say the loot message, which is this right here, is that this plugin is optional. Not so bad. Once again, I don't have any orange ones because I've already done everything. But say you've installed Legacy of the Dragonborn, and it'll pop up and say it's highly recommended that you download Legacy of Dragonborn patches. Or say you've installed JK Skyrim and you have Real Water 2, but you don't have the JK Skyrim Real Water 2 patch. It'll tell you highly recommended that you download JK Skyrim Real Water 2 patch to go along with it. Use these messages. It will help if you're having issues or things are broken, stuff like that. These will help a lot. Wearable Lanterns, it's recommended that you have the MCM fix. If you open your MCM menu and it looks all funky, there you go. Use that. Once again, these are just going to say make sure you read the mod's compatibility notes and that you're just familiar with it. So you've installed everything, you've checked your loot, you've checked all the other stuff, you're ready to play, you got one more thing left you need to do. You need to use the Requiem Reqtifcator program to make sure that it goes through and basically merges its own patch, its own like bashed patch basically, to fix everything. Anytime you change a mod, anytime you do anything, you need to rerun that. So I have my different profiles. So I've already set it up. What you do is you go add tool. When you go to add tool, you add new. And then you go here. And this actually shows you how to do this step by step on the page, but I'll just cover it really quickly. Name, Reqtifcator, target is the Reqtifcator.bat, and then mine is in my NVMe drive, Steam Apps Commons, Skyrim Special Edition data. It has to be in your data area, and then save. So when we run that, since we removed that glowing ore, you know what, we're going to go ahead and run it again. Pops up, everything's good, We're going to patch. You see it's going to patch actors. It's going to patch everything. Once again, while this is loading, if you use mods that change these and they lack the correct tags, Requiem might not be able to patch it. So just keep that in mind. And there we go. All done. That's done. We're going to go back into plugins. I'm going to go ahead and sort by load order. So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, and there it is. That's what we want to see. And it should always be at the very bottom. I can't think of any instance ever that it would be below that. Anything would be below that. All right, we're here in the game, and everything's looking good. I don't see any issues. Nothing popped up. No errors. We're here at the Elysium Estate in the back crafting area. Character looks good. Here on Colgarth, my two-handed barbarian. Yep, so looks like my lantern, like I said, that issue with my lantern is not working. The lantern is not. So the way you do this, let's go ahead and go to your mod configurations, Wearable Lanterns, General, and all you got to do is you just change this brightness. Go ahead and just put it there for now. There we go. So I have mine hotkeyed on 4. So unfortunately, if it does give you that issue, you just have to keep doing that. It is somewhat immersion breaking or game breaking, but currently right now there is no other fixes that I know of to get it to work permanently. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the night sky. Oh, looks like I got a hit out. Yeah, I have a hit out on me. Go ahead and get rid of him. All right. Quite a beautiful night, isn't it? Welcome to Requiem. Okay, so some mods that you might want to look at that can help with immersion, things that say get rid of the compass, or that you still keep your compass, or ones that get rid of the enemies on the compass. There are a lot of different mods out there. Just keep in mind, like I've said numerous times, things that change actors, quests, items, AI may or may not be able to be used. Like, there's no point in using Wildcat, a combat overhaul, considering Requiem overhauls combat. And the combat is based around Requiem's combat. Magic as well. Requiem rebalances magic. It rebalances the standing stones. It rebalances perks. So things like Ordinator, do not use. Uh-oh.
Someone there?
Guess it's all clear now.
Well, I don't know what that was. I think I had a hit out on me. And, yeah, welcome to Requiem.